Just give me a...
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the listeners of the Good Anime Palette podcast. Welcome to episode 112. As you can see, we are going to be going over our 9th anime closet cleanup. We haven't done one of these in a while, so it's about time that we dust off our long list of to-watch lists, abandoned, pending, whatever we have on our MAL that we really hadn't gotten around to doing. But now we have finally dusted off a couple more anime that we've been waiting to watch, but for some reason we decided to just leave and linger in the dust. So Jason, myself, we're going to be going over a couple of anime series and movies that have been festering in our to-watch lists. And I think that's it's a good mixture of stuff, right, Jason?
Yeah. I think what we did this time around was we had Will pick just all of the ones that we will be watching today. So then we could get and actually the ones that Will picked I think are really interesting. So I think we're ready to go and we're ready to dive into these 4 things.
Yeah, so before we dive into it, apologies again, but Hong Kong is going through a tantrum at the moment with the weather. We're stuck indoors again because of the fact that it's a black rainstorm. For those who are listening in the U.S., just imagine it's just, insanely heavy rain, and that it's super dangerous to go outside. Even though right now in the area where both Jason and I live, there's not that much rain, but there are, windy gusts, there are thunderstorms going on, so it's probably best just to stay indoors because I don't want to travel with like a bunch of hard drives and my laptop in the rain.
Yeah, the last thing I want is for Will to get injured and then his wife, gets really mad and everyone, and that's just not a good outlook. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Emphasis on the wife. For her, I think she's also got stuff that she was planning to do today, but those have been canceled. So nobody's happy. But what are you gonna do? It's been a shit week. It's been a shit month in Hong Kong, actually.
Right.
Because the last time we had to do a remote recording was because there was a hurricane, a typhoon in Hong Kong, and now this time it's just pissing it down with heavy rain.
So Kami-sama just hates us, basically, is what we're trying to say.
I think it's just fitting that Ozzy Osbourne passed away in the past week or so, and now it's just black rain, so he's just up in the heavens crying down on us. So rest in peace, Ozzy. Please stop making it rain.
And he did the concert, too, right before
just a week or two
passed.
before he, yeah. So that's a very heavy metal way to go.
Yeah. And, the chair and the throne and him singing, it's just great.
Yeah.
All right.
Props to the king of metal. Okay, now, with that out of the way, let's officially get started with our anime classic cleanup number 9. So, shall I go first, or should you go first?
It's your shot. Which one do you want to listen to first?
Let's go with you first.
Sure.
I'm actually quite interested to hear about the show that you watched. So take it away, Jason. Introduce your first cleanup.
All right. So my first cleanup is a TV series called Migi and Dali, or Migi to Dali, based on the completed manga of the same name by Nami Sano, who did the story and the art. Unfortunately, she died of ovarian cancer in 2023, and the anime was dedicated to her at the very, very end, which was, very fitting and very nice. It premiered in fall 2023, produced by Geek Toys and Comptown. Never heard of Comptown. Geek Toys is kind of up and coming, to be honest. The manga has a raw MAL score of 7.83, rank 1275, popularity 4146. And the anime originally, way back when it was premiering, was really, really low. Then once the season wrapped up, it turned into now a 7.70, ranked 1346, popularity 2342 with 96,000 members. So nothing to slouch at. The way that I would describe this, how do I even go about this? Okay, first of all, I would say that...
Before that, actually,
what's up?
In terms of like how we discussed this, I know we've done this a couple times with our past cleanups. Do you want to do like a non-spoiler and then a spoiler, or like how do you want to go about sort of orienting this discussion?
Well, this anime in particular, I think it's one of those shows that I have to be ambiguous about. And
yeah, I think we could probably say the same about the rest of the stuff. Then let's keep things under wraps.
Sure. And again, the least amount of information that you know going in, I think will maximize your amount of enjoyment. However, whether or not you enjoy it or despise it, I think it is a very it's understandable. So what I can tell you is that it is a very odd show. Imagine things like black comedy, Tim Burton kind of aesthetics, and mixing things like Promised Neverland in terms of like the vibe, maybe not necessarily a plot line, but it's just like it takes place in kind of a suburban area, and it kind of has like that Stepford Wives kind of vibe where like suburban area looks really nice and a utopian, but actually there's really fucked up shit happening in there. And our main protagonist is a set of twins, and you kind of figure out, as you go throughout the TV series, why they are doing the things that they do and how it all resolves. So the first thing that I would like to say that's really good is that the one Kerr show, 13 episodes, from beginning to end is a complete finished story. So there is no, unless if they somehow make up a season 2, there's no way that there's going to be a season 2, to be very honest. So you can be rest assured that from the beginning to the end, when you watch all 13 episodes, is a complete story, which is something that we tend to see more often now. But back then it was kind of, less, because they always want to have a room for the sequel, right?
You say back then, even though it was only 2 years ago.
True. And I think the other thing that I would like to mention is, if you are going to watch this show, they do this for every single episode. I kid you not. You need to watch the post-credit scene. There's a post-credit scene in the end of every single episode. So when the episode ends, you gotta go through the credits and then watch like a 30-second scene. And some of them are major significant stuff.
Right. I have a question. Now, you mentioned that it is a full beginning to end story in regards to the One Kerr anime series. There are 7 volumes of the manga. How does that work then? Is it like clear from the beginning that it's going to be a complete series, or is it by the end of it, okay, like the story is done, there really is nothing else they need to talk about beyond this particular season?
So I assume, because I haven't read the manga source, is that they go more into the suburban. So basically, I guess I have to tell a little bit. Our protagonist, a set of twins, essentially gets adopted into this family of an elderly couple who hasn't have a child, so then they want to adopt from the orphanage. And the twins then go into this suburban area that apparently the twins planned it from the get-go. They wanted to get, adopted by any family that is from this so-called village, which is basically the suburban area, to essentially exact revenge. But what does that mean? How do they exact revenge? Why do they have to exact revenge? So all of that kind of builds up into essentially this kind of mystery, suspense, horror, and black comedy. The thing that I would like to mention is I just mentioned a whole bunch of genres, and the tonal shift is like whiplash, because 1 second they will do this really morbid humor thing, then all of a sudden it becomes this creepy, like almost like a horror movie-esque type thing. Then it goes into thriller, and then it goes back into mystery. So if you are the type that wants essentially a cohesive story that is sort of well plotted, I would say this is kind of not that, even though everything does get resolved at the end. It is just a little bit messy of like trying to figure out its way and then giving you a little bit of everything. There's no consistency. So if you're looking for like a straight show that is basically very orthodox, so this show is extremely unorthodox, is what I would say.
Do you think that's probably what contributed to its low scores initially?
Absolutely, because it was, just like with Odd Taxi, it's like the mystery doesn't get revealed until like later on, and then it kind of builds up. Now, I'm not trying to say that Miggy and Dolly is essentially the same as Odd Taxi. I'm not. But I ended up giving this series a 7 out of 10, but it was a very, very good watch. It is also very creepy because they do this thing where they essentially... the art style is very much shown. It's like Shadow's House, Shadow's House, where it's just like all these guys and gals and people all look very Western, but then they all have very Japanese names. But then they live in basically what is, I would like to say, suburban America. But then, hey, the neighbors have very odd kind of habits. There is something going on underneath the surface. Everyone seems very nice. Weird people have weird fetishes, I guess, and things like that. So I'm assuming, going back to your question and my answer now to your question, Will, is I'm assuming that more of the fleshing out of the lore of the suburban area, maybe they introduce more characters, because the characters that are introduced in the TV series is very much condensed and very much, it's only like these people. That's all you really need to see. There's nothing else, even though there's like a huge suburban area. You only meet like 4 families.
I think another thing that might have contributed to like the creepy undertones of the series perhaps is the fact that the central characters are twins. Like for some reason within horror and mystery and thrillers, the use of twins is very much tied to something's not quite right. There's always something a bit mysterious and creepy about twins in movies. So, for example, like the Grady twins in The Shining. One of my favorite horror movies, Goodnight Mommy, has twin boys, Elia and Lucas. There's also things like Blood Rage or The Twin, Basket Case. Those all feature very creepy, scary twins. So that might have played into like the unsettling nature of Miggy to Dolly. I think also the fact that like Miggy and Dolly itself means left and right.
Yes,
so
and they get into that a lot for sure. The thing that I would have to say is when it just like some of the drawings and designs of the characters have really long limbs. So it kind of gives you like what's that horror game? The one with Slender Man. That's the one.
Yeah, Slender Man.
So everyone is really either really thin and Slender Man looking, or they're really like exaggerated and like overweight or have curly hair and stuff like that. So it just kind of reminds me of like something is always unsettling. And I have to say that the music and the sound effects are very, very well done, because it really does. Even though I would say the genre whiplash is pretty significant, which I think can turn a lot of people off. So either you love it or hate it. I am more on the loving side than hating it. The music is really good signaling in terms of telling you, okay, you guys can chill out now. And they don't do any like crazy, like, oh, I'm going to trick the audience. No, it's just very straight by the books. But, okay, now you can rest. Oh, now it's the horror. Oh, now it's the thriller. So whoever did the music composition and the sound effects deserves extra praise.
Very nice. So,
is there any
you gave
questions?
it a 7. No, you gave it a 7.
Mm-hmm.
What was holding it back from being a bit higher for you?
It just wasn't that great of a story. And
you think it was just because it was like? You think it's just because it was very? Was it disjointed? Was it done on, or was like the sort of disjointed story like done on purpose, or perhaps like because of the way it's done, like it was hard for you to fully immerse yourself into it, but you could see like the genius in the series. Just that it's not necessarily the sum of its whole, some of all of its parts.
Well, one thing that I would say is there is a lot of logic gaps that you kind of, when in the moment at least, I had that suspension of disbelief. So I bought into it, right? But if you are someone that maybe are very picky, I know I am a very picky person, but for some reason I bought into it. But there's things like, hey, oh, this character got away, or this character it looked like they were going to enter the door, and then all of a sudden something, plot armor or whatever, sort of explains away everything like a MacGuffin and stuff like that. However, one thing that I will say that is also a criticism is the payoff is just not that great. I would say up till maybe episode 5 or 6, it was like ramping up, and then I would say that when the mystery gets revealed and the payout shows up, it just wasn't as grand, and it just wasn't that crazy of a plot twist, a plot reveal that made me feel like the first 6 episodes really made it look like it was going to be this crazy, maybe even conspiratorial thing, and then it turns out to be none of those. But that's okay. But it's also okay.
Was that at least satisfying for you to at least like get to the end of it?
Yeah, it was satisfying. Like it was really good in terms of wrapping things up for sure, and it's very definitive too. Because let's just say if there's a season 2, it's like really odd. So there's just no way that they're going to be able to do a sequel, and it makes sense because the manga's over and the mangaka passed away. So what I would say though is that Migi and Dali is definitely a show that you should probably watch, and you should probably see if you like it. If you don't like it though, there's probably, I would say, way more understanding if you like don't want to know what's it about, and you don't care.
Yeah, I think that, like, for example, if you look back on fall 2023, that was a season that, like, had some real heavy hitters. Like, that was, like, the beginning of Frieren, the beginning of Apothecary Diaries, both of them, like, 2 of the most popular shows in recent years. And then you had a bunch of sequels, like the second seasons of Spy X Family, the Eminence in Shadow, Ancient Magus' Bride Season 2 Part 2. You also had the New World for Dr. Stone Part 2, and the one of the new arcs of Tokyo Revengers. So if you were to remove those out, I know, of course, I'm like doing a lot of stipulations, but it helps to put into perspective. If you were just to sort of like look into new shows and you take away things like Beyond End's Journey, if you added, as well as Apothecary Diaries, because it's just unfair to have them. They're just too heavy a hitter. It would be a top 5 show. That is like a brand new series for that particular season, fall 2023. So it does deserve some accolade in terms of being a pretty well received show. Granted, the stats that you gave are pretty promising.
Yeah.
It's also, I guess, like a neat sort of move for Geek Toys, because they've been doing pretty well recently. Yeah, they didn't start off like the best with some of the stuff that they released like in the early 2020s. So like I think the first show they ever had come out was in fall 2018 actually, and that was Rewrite Dorita Who Leaps Through Time. That debuted at a 5.69. Since then they've done Did Alive 4, which was a 7.74. They've done Dead Mount Death Play, which was a 7.27. Migi and Dali, 7.7. And then this other one, what's this one? This one is Did Alive 5. Yeah, so they've been doing some pretty good stuff. I think like going forward, you would probably want to keep an eye on how things are going for Geek Toys.
Absolutely. And one other thing that I also want to give props to Geek Toys, Comptown, and just the anime Migi and Dali is that you won't get a lot of these types of shows in general. The crazy tonal shifts, the maybe like it sounds like an insult, but it's like a very good B game. Like when you play a video game, it's not like a AAA, but it's like AA. And it is just really good for what it does. It's just not like as awesome as like a AAA game, for example. And I think Migi and Dali is a very good show. It just wasn't a very great show. But it has so much going for it. And I think it is not like essentially a bad use of your time. And if you're curious, like we kind of brushed it off, right, Will, for like the longest time. Then all of a sudden when the season was over, it was like it jumped up massively, and I think that was kind of the reason why we kind of put it on our cleanup at some point. And then I'm assuming that's why you picked it, right? Is that why you picked it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, just the fact that when we were doing the the cleanups and also just doing our seasonal reviews, it's hard to be able to watch everything, and so of course it's going to be a little bit easier if we were to look at Mal and see what's tracking well, what's getting a lot of popularity, just so that generally we don't want to just go for like the popular option, but when you're stretched for time and you desperately can't make more use of whatever you've got, it just makes it easier to go with what you can see clearly is tracking well. And at the time, Mickey and Dolly was not doing very well. By the time we finished doing the season reviews and then we moved on to other topics, that's when like the score skyrocketed. Not to the point where it was like Dangers in My Heart sort of skyrocketed. That one was unprecedented.
That was crazy.
Yeah. But no, it sounds good that, like, yes, you mentioned, of course, it's like it's good, not great, but the fact you gave it a 7 is props, right? I think that, like, you got to have a show that isn't necessarily going to be like a world beater, but hey, for a cur and you get a good level of enjoyment out of it, I don't see why it would be something that you should put on the back burner for too long. That's what we did. Now I'm glad that we've dusted it off.
Let me put it this way. For a closet cleanup type of show, this is the perfect show. That is like something that is on the back burner that you kind of curious about, but you haven't really gotten around to it, and then now you're getting around to it after the fact. I think it is very, very perfect because you can binge it, you can watch it all from beginning to end. It literally, I think, is a very perfect closet cleanup pick, just because of what closet cleanup kind of stands for, and also because Miggy and Dolly has all the episodes coming out. That's sort of the best praise I can definitely give from like a consumer point of view. But at the end of the day, it's a very good show. People should check it out. And the reason why I'm being so vague is because I severely think that you need to go in blind like I did, or else your enjoyment significantly decreases. So That's my take on Miggy and Dolly.
Yeah, should also say that for Miggy and Dolly on my anime list, there were 47 reviews for the show.
Oh yeah, what did they say?
40 of them recommended. Yeah. So it's overwhelmingly positive, at least for people who bothered to write reviews. There were a couple of not recommends and a few mixed feelings, but generally like 40 out of 47 people who wrote a review for it recommended the show. I think it's not so much that like it's hugely successful and popular. I think it's more like similar to what you're doing in the fact that like, okay, maybe it's a misunderstood anime, maybe it's hard for you to get into it, but stick around for it and you would be able to find enjoyment out of watching Miggy and Dolly.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to my first closet cleanup. This is a series that came out in 2024, almost exactly a year ago. So, Train to the End of the World. This is an anime original that premiered in spring 2024, produced by EMT Squared. So the director is Tsutomu Mizushima, who did Girl Panzer and Shirobako, and the series composition was handled by Michiko Yokote, who was the head writer / series composer for Mononoke, Shirobako, Prison School, and Disastrous Life of Psyche K. Those are going to be fairly important in explaining the whole Train to the End of the World story. So, it has a current route mal score of 7.37, around 83,000 members. So, similar stats actually to Miggy and Dolly. I mean, maybe lower on the raw score, but in terms of popularity, it's definitely up there as well.
For sure.
Again, like I don't want to go too deep into the story itself. It's similar in the sense that like it's best just to sort of go in blind and watch and experience the world that is Train to the End of the World. But it'd be remiss of me to sort of not go over a quick sort of synopsis. At least like this is not going to be like giving away the plot. This is actually quite necessary for you to understand like what is the purpose, what is the story of Train to the End of the World. So it takes place in modern day Japan, and it's set initially in Ikebukuro, one of the areas, one of the districts in the greater Tokyo area. So we've talked about things like technology growth, talking about how things are going to become fully automated, how the future is going to be driven by cutting edge and world breaking technology. Well, the introduction of this newfound technology in Train to the Underworld is not 5G networks, not 6G, but 7G network technology, where it promises to have technological advancements so crazy that it's just, you're looking at it like, oh, it's not just science anymore, it's performing miracles. However, after its launch, it creates a crazy blending, a crazy melding of the world where Japan no longer is Japan. In fact, everything has drastically changed. The terrain is different, people have mutated, buildings are no longer standing upright but dilapidated. Just in generally, like the rule of law and the nature of life is completely rewritten. And so then we move ourselves from Ikebukuro to a suburban town, a very suburban town of Agano, where one of the few remaining settlements exists, and everybody is essentially animals now. Why? Because once you reach the age of 21, you go from being a human to transforming into an animal. So it could be an aardvark, it could be a capybara, a bat, it could be a bird. I didn't notice any reptiles or insects, so it's probably the fact that like they needed to transform into animals that had some sort of brain capacity, so you wouldn't see someone transforming into a goldfish. Yeah. So it centers around a kind of like an ensemble cast of, or just a troupe of female students. High school students, namely Shizuru Chikura, a high school student from Agano who, for unknown reasons, is trying to find a friend of hers, Yoko Nakatomi. Nakatomi. So she has no idea where she was, but the last thing she heard was she had just left. She just appeared out of nowhere, and she's just trying to find any clues because of the fact that like everything is so sparse, so dystopian that even like regular technology like the internet and mobile phone lines just don't really work anymore. You kind of just have to use like a PHS system instead. However, occasionally you will get archived news clippings that show up because there are people that go around and drop off supplies to the existing settlements, existing towns, just so that they can survive in this weird sort of crazy avant-garde arts hellhole. Now, one of the clippings actually shows a picture of Ikebukuro, and within the picture itself is the girl in question, Yoka Nakatomi. In a haze, Shizuru decides, fuck everything. This world is fucked up. This town is crazy. This is the only thing I want to do now. I'm going to go look for her. But because of the fact that nothing really works in this town or this world anymore, there really is no way for her to go around. Fortunately, she does manage to find essentially the titular public transportation mode for her to get to Ikebukuro, a train, specifically a Seibu 2000. That's going to come in play later. I'm going to talk a bit more about it because I've never talked about this. I like trains, so I'm going to talk at length about this shit. That's essentially it. That's kind of how I want to sort of premise this plot synopsis, because I don't want to go too far into explaining like other characters. Well, I give them other characters. So it's not just Shizuru going down there. She's also got 3 other classmates and a dog to go along with her. So Nadeshiko Hoshi, Reimi Kuga, and Akira Shiranome. Her 3 classmates, who are also friends of Yoka Nakatomi, are going to embark on this journey to the end of the world, or more specifically to Ikebukuro, because as far as they know, Ikebukuro might possibly be the end of the world that exists in its current state. And then the dog as well, Pochi. Very, very cute, adorable dog. So that's as far as I'm going to go with a synopsis. And I'm going to essentially break down and talk about the series without really talking about the series, because it's quite important to go in blind and just let insanity and weirdness take over.
I really think that's the theme of this closet cleanup, by the way.
The last 2 are less weird and more fucked up. So
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Sure. No,
so,
for sure.
So the Train at the End of the World is a pretty fresh take on an anime original. Now, we've definitely lambasted a lot of originals, more specifically me with Moon Rising and whatnot. It's not necessarily been like the not Moon Rising. What's it called?
Moon Kingdom, something?
No, Moonrise, not Moon Rising.
Moonrise. I think
Kingdom was a
Metallic
completely different
Rouge
show.
by Bones was really bad too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're not really bad. It was just really boring.
Mid.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So Train at the End of the World, in terms of its genre tags, it just has the word adventure. And I like that Mal did that because they really do not need to explain anymore. It's just an adventure. It's 4 girls and a dog taking a Seibu 2000 along the Seibu Ikebukuro line. So, in terms of the train line itself, right? So there are a total of 31 stations for the Seibu Ikebukuro line that connects Agano to Ikebukuro. So it starts, or depends on which side you're on, but basically it starts and terminates on one of those 2 points. And essentially throughout this journey, Shizuru and her band of classmates have to travel through every single station because it's literally the only mode of transport that they can take. It's the only way for them to go directly to Ikebukuro. So, what I liked about the show itself was that whenever you go through every station, it introduces a new world. It introduces new laws of nature. It introduces new flora and fauna. It introduces new characters. But they're also not necessarily like doing a whole lot of world building. So it's not so in depth that you have to be fully invested into what the landscape of Greater Tokyo looks like now. And rather, it's more just sort of like literally chapters. You're going from one place to another place to another place. It's very easy for you to sort of just sit back and see what the hell's happened in each specific region and specific stop of this train line. I also don't know what the particular interest or obsession is with this particular train line, but I think that the people who created this show were very invested in making sure that they fully replicated the feeling of taking this particular line from Western Greater Tokyo all the way through to the city center. They made sure that they introduced a specific train model, which is a Seibu 2000. It's important as well because it wasn't the newer model that they used, it was an older model. But even then, the initial models they had, they can go very fast. Now, I know that, of course, like when people talk about the JR, like the J lines and whatnot in Japan, they think bullet trains, they think Shinkansen. So, of course, those things are going like 300, 400, 500 kilometers per hour. But when you see like regular metro, subway in Japan, they don't go super, super fast. The Seibu 2000, even though it originally started running in production in the 1970s, was able to run a max speed of 104 kilometers. So that should be fast. So fast, in fact, that if you were to go from Agano through to Ikebukuro today, it would take you just over an hour to get there. However, because of how the world has been transformed, to go from one station to the next station ends up being well over 4 to 5 hours. It would have only been 5 minutes to take that. So it's... I don't know why they chose this particular line, but I'm not asking any questions because I just like trains. It's just fun to see them do things that are very specific to each specific region. So each specific station has its own inhabitants. It has its own sort of feel. In fact, like whenever you go from station to station, the genre of the show changes. It goes from just a regular adventure to more black comedy to horror to mysteries, supernatural action. It's got pretty much everything in there, which can also act as a double-edged sword in that you don't necessarily know if the show can make its mind up in terms of what tone direction they want to go for, and that might explain why the score itself isn't necessarily the highest. Yes, 7.37 is still quite respectable, but it's not necessarily world-breaking. Like if Jason said that a 7.7 for Miggy and Dolly and him giving it a 7 is pretty apt, I could say the same thing about Train to the End of the World. It definitely is one of those where you gotta have personal investment. You gotta have like a perspective that's shared with the themes of the series to essentially give it a chance and give it a score. Like at the end of the day for this show, I gave it an 8.
Okay.
I gave it an 8 because it did just enough for each specific section. It had just the right amount of comedy. It had the right amount of adventure, supernatural mystery. I also just, if I haven't mentioned already, I like trains, and that's a pretty big deal for me to at least give it like an extra like 0.5 to knock up its score from a 7.5. Originally it was a 7.5, but trains, so gets an 8. You can fight me about that.
I'm not going to fight you about that at all.
I'm not talking to you.
Oh, okay, my bad.
It's not about you all the time.
I know.
Yeah. So there were a couple of weird criticisms. Not necessarily criticisms, but it was like just certain things that like kind of bothered me a little bit. Which was when the train was running, at least running all the way from Agano through to Ikebukuro, there were no overhead power lines. So I didn't understand how the train could move. But as the series kept going on, I just decided, you know what, like, I'm not going to nitpick that anymore because everything else is pretty insane in this. So me complaining about the actual physics of this show is just me, shouting into a cave. Like, nobody's going to hear. It's just me listening to my own complaints. So, yeah. I think also the story itself, whilst plain and simple, I think the issue was that it was a bit too simple in that like it was from beginning to end 4 girls trying to look for their friend. Do they find their friend? I guess that's the story. That's just essentially it. So overall, like if you want to enjoy this, you kind of have to enjoy everything in between. If you're focusing on having like that super amazing happy ending at the end, you're gonna be disappointed. Not in the sense it's a bad ending. It's like, no, it's not like, a horror type ending. No, it's more just like Jason said, the payoff isn't necessarily the best with Train to the End of the World. I think those would be the sort of main criticisms I have for the show. Like you watched it, right, Jason?
Yes, I did. And it's super weird. I especially remember the first episode with the train conductor. Like, what the fuck was that? And then
I think like the thing was, I think like especially when you're watching it first episode, yes, like that does kind of like weird you out. But that also wasn't the thing that really bothered me about the show. And in fact, like when you have like a talking capybara, right? Like, nothing else is weirder than that. So
true. I mean, I also remember, I think if my memory serves, they very, as teenagers do, they don't plan ahead and they kind of went on a whim. So they forget about food, and then somehow there's plants involved, and there's a weird vine thing in the train, or I don't know, something like that. I just remember, and I remember jet skis, I think. People on jet skis, I don't know. It was a weird eclectic mix of things that I actually really dug, because it felt like almost like a slice of life adventure. As you said, right? It's each kind of stop is a different genre, a different tone, and I guess a different group of people and inhabitants.
I just liked it because they had trains. I mean, like whenever I'm in Japan, especially like in a major urban city like Fukuoka, Osaka, Tokyo, Yokohama, I more often than not will be taking the J-Rail. I will be taking the subway, the metro, and because of the fact that like I'm competent enough to be able to read hiragana and katakana and some kanji. It's never been difficult for me to be able to travel on these train lines and just sort of see like what each train station looks like. Each train station kind of has its own flavor. Some of them are just a standalone two-way lane where there's nothing there. It's just literally a train station because of the fact that this small town has enough students that need to take this to go into the city center. In fact, actually, like the line itself serves as a way to literally bring suburban townfolk into the city center. There are a lot of people that take the lane, this particular line, to go to Tokyo to work, and then at the end of it, take an hour and a half to go back home. So you see this a lot in a lot of these sort of like workplace or more adult-oriented anime series. This one was just nice to see that they're actually taking the train and actually going from station to station and experiencing new things, either them being really cute and fuzzy or plain simple fucked up.
Do you think if people are squeamish or they don't really dig the kind of genre bending that this is like something that you should stay away from? Or is it something that even if you are like not into genre bending, this is something that, you know, you can watch and kind of enjoy?
I don't think there's anything squeamish about the show. It's not like it's bloody or violent or, you know, can make people turned off from anything graphic in that sense. I mean, yeah, there are weird things in there, but it's not necessarily like sickening weird. So I wouldn't say that, you know, if you have, you know, if you're adverse to seeing that kind of shit, don't worry. I don't think it exists in this particular show. I think it's just the fact that like the only reason why people might be turned off by it is that it doesn't necessarily have the best ending. That's basically it. Like throughout, it's like I'd say like episodes 1 through to 9 were all phenomenal. It's only when you start getting to the end, and this is more indicative in terms of how anime originals are done. I think that like you always start with an idea, and then you evolve that idea, and you keep on throwing more things into the mix to see what sticks and what works. And when things keep growing and growing and growing, and you see that the reception for it is so good, you keep on trying to build it. But you know that at the end of the day, the series has to end. So once you've built up to such a high by like episode 10, how do you give off a satisfying payoff where the ending just does not completely collapse the whole series? Like what happened with Wonder Egg, right? Like, that's basically it. And I think that they managed to catch themselves before they flew a little too close to the sun. It was getting to the point when things were getting really out of control. Like it was controlled chaos for sure. But once it got to like the last quarter of the season of the series itself, I think like the writers and the creator was just like, okay, we need to figure out how to wrap this up in 60 minutes. We only have 3 episodes left. How are we going to do it? I think they did the best they could, given the fact that they set themselves up to have something that was so mixture of like surreal dystopian comedy that's why the score itself is legitimately quite divisive. You either love it or you hate it. And I am in the camp of loving it. So I don't think there's anything in particular, like a theme or a genre or a character or a trope in the series that would turn people off. It's more just, would you be satisfied with how it ends? So nothing to do with it being like squeamish or boring or too weird or whatnot. I think just generally, like, regardless of what genre of anime you like, you will be able to find enjoyment at least for like the first 3 quarters of it, and how you choose to interpret the ending is very much up to you.
I see. All right.
I mean, how did you feel about the show?
I thought it was okay. Mainly because of the ending. Mainly because I was really hyped, as you said, for like the first half, 3 quarters, and then it kind of, no pun intended, derailed a bit. Didn't derail too much, but enough for me to be like, oh, okay, this is, rather than a great show, this is just pretty good. So I kind of feel the same way.
I think if you were to just analyze it from the first 9 episodes, what they did really well, given the fact that it was only 9 episodes of what I'm talking about, they managed to give each character enough of the spotlight. They managed to at least showcase that there is depth to having this many characters in a one season show, that nobody was kind of like a straggler and holding anything back. No one was an anchor. Everybody basically had a right and a reason to be in this particular series. It was just that once they got to the ending and like realizing what the purpose of the train ride is, that's when it started getting a bit sort of, I'm not sure they could have wrapped it up a little bit earlier, but hey, at least the season is done. I still gave it an 8.
All right.
Anything else you want to ask or anything you want to say about it?
Actually, what would you comment about the music?
Fantastic. The music was awesome. I really liked it. I actually looked up the music composer and the sound designers for it, and they have done some pretty good work. And I would say that like if they were to be on any future projects and I noticed that they're on them, I would be stoked. I had no problems at all with the soundtrack. The sound design was just perfect for every station that they experienced. So yeah, all in all, like it looks great. It sounds great. The writing itself is always going to be like the main focal point for any original, unfortunately. So you do have to knock down a few points for it, but hey, in the end, an 8 is an 8, and that's like wonderful for me.
Sounds good. All right. I think that wraps up Train to the End of the World, the review. And shall we take a break, Will?
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and then afterwards, let's get to the real meat of today's episode. So, thanks for listening to this part. We'll catch you later in a couple of seconds.
And welcome back to the second half of the Good Anime Palette Podcast, episode number 112. I am your co-host Jason. Will and I is over here talking about the last 2 shows, Migi and Dali and Train to the End of the World, and we are ready to proceed onwards to our last 2 picks, which Will graciously picked some very, very well-known movies. So Will, do you want to start first?
Yeah, why not? I'll start off with mine. So just to sort of give a disclaimer, when Jason was saying these are 2 very well-known movies, we're talking about 2 of the most classic Satoshi Kon movies, Perfect Blue and Paprika. So I was tasked with watching Perfect Blue, and Jason will be doing Paprika. So to get things started with Perfect Blue, based on the novel, it's loosely based on the novel Perfect Blue Complete Metamorphosis, written by Yoshikazu Takeuchi, and the studio that did it was Madhouse. Premiered in 1998. Well, actually, it premiered a bit earlier, 1997, but like more like at a Fantasia Film Festival, but then more widespread in early 1998. Pretty short movie, runs for about 81 minutes, but that's all you really need. The MAL score for the anime is an 8.55 with a popularity of 282, 777,000 members for its MAL entry. So Perfect Blue starts off by going over the life of a up-and-coming pop idol, Mima Kirigoe. Now, in the midst of her J-pop idol group experience and in career, she decides, this is it. I need to make an upgrade, or at least I need to make a step up in my career. I'm going to leave the J-pop idol world and go into acting. Now, this was necessarily the best of choices for her, not specifically in Mima's mind, but regards to her fans. A lot of her fans felt that this was probably not the right move to make, that she should probably stay within her J-pop career because that's how she started, that's how she should build it, and everybody has adoration for her for that particular career. But nonetheless, generally fans are like, okay, well then, if you want to be a actress, we'll support you in one way or another. Fortunately, after she makes the move, things start to fall apart. In terms of her wanting to sort of take on a new image and not and not be a pop idol anymore, she takes on a role in a crime drama series, and her career becomes more sort of serious, a bit more adult oriented. She's no longer on stage in flashy pink outfits and singing J-pop tunes. Instead, she is taking part in a drama series that focuses on analyzing a scene of murder, crime, just essentially a complete 180 from what she had built her career on. Now, the role itself is taxing. It takes a lot out of her, and it also takes a lot out on the people around her, particularly her manager, Rumi Hidaka. And to add on to this growing level of unease, it seems that not every fan that she has took too nicely to her transformation of J-pop idol turned up-and-coming actress. In fact, some of them have gone to the point of complete obsession that when they see her shedding her image of an innocent idol, they snap. Things just are no longer the same. Mima has ruined her image, and she is no longer an innocent idol. She needs to be dealt with. Then ensues a very, very crazy montage of, let's just say, the blending of reality and illusion. The impossibility of being able to tell what's real, what's fake, what's doctored, what's authentic, what really exists in the mind of the main character, and what is more a projection of what the main character is feeling and experiencing. That is essentially the tale of Perfect Blue. I know it doesn't really give a whole lot, but if I was to just go in and explain the story of Perfect Blue, then nobody's going to watch it, and I would have just ruined the whole movie for you. So, please go ahead and watch Perfect Blue. Now, to go into the series, into the movie itself, I went in completely blind. In fact, the only real thing that I watched of Shidoshi Kan's was Paranoia Agent about 4 years ago, and that was a really, really good show.
Great show.
About sort of, the loss of identity, the loss of sanity, the failure to realize one's self-worth or to be able to attain someone's love and affection, someone's acknowledgement and appreciation. It's just a lot of sort of disjointed stories of broken individuals trying to navigate life and find purpose. But whenever they do, they realize that they've been chasing the wrong dream, or maybe they've just been a nightmare the whole time and there was never a dream to begin with. That's essentially what Perfect Blue is, but Perfect Blue does it so perfectly that whilst I have massive praises for Paranoia Agent on its own, and this is also not a fair comparison, one being a single Kerr TV series, the other one being one of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion. To watch Perfect Blue is to be ready to break yourself, to be able to sit back and watch horror unfold in front of you and know that there's nothing you can do to stop it. It is being able to watch someone who is so vulnerable, lost, and in need of help, to basically tell her, this is what you've done to yourself. You have to stick with it, or you have to find a solution, and that solution is not the right solution, but it's a solution nonetheless. Perfect Blue is the dissection of what the human mind puts itself to when it reaches adversity, but it also realizes that there's nothing that can be done. It is a self-created image of your own successes and your own failures, your own dreams, but also your own insecurities. It's not knowing if what you're doing is the right thing, but you're doing it anyway because you don't have another choice. It is essentially the breakdown of the ego. It is the breakdown of one's self-worth, one's understanding of being. And the best part is, it's all told in a masterful way by Satoshi Kon, who has, in terms of how TV series or how anime is done in general, one thing that we never really talk about is cinematography, how a scene is put together, how certain lines are delivered, and how you go from one slide to another. The shots, the angles, the usage of color and sound is done to perfection in Perfect Blue. Everything is used for a specific purpose, no matter how grand or how minute. And throughout the whole series, I was so emotionally and mentally fucked up.
Oh shit.
I never knew. I didn't even know what the story was. And then by the time I finished watching Perfect Blue, that's when I realized you don't have to understand it. Perfect Blue, along with a lot of thrillers and mystery shows, right? And I've done this myself as well. A lot of times, like for example, like when you're watching things like Memento or Inception, where there are a lot of unknowns and ambiguity, you kind of want to have an opinion. So rather than straight away formulating your own, you tend to go online or you go to forums and you try and see what other interpretations there are. You try and see what people thought of how the ending should have been or what it was supposed to mean. And through all that, you kind of amalgamate your own understanding. And then I realized halfway through when I was doing that, I was like, this completely misses the whole point of Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue exemplifies what it means to have self-image and whether or not you place importance on it, whether you realize that every day you're wearing a mask. Even right now, when we're talking to you on this podcast, the person that's talking to you right now is not the real Will. I'm not talking to you like I would as a normal person. I am pretty much running off of a script that I written in my head. The way that I am presenting things, the way I talk about things, is not the real image or the real sort of identity that you as a listener or you, Jason, might have come to know. And that's something that is exemplified in Perfect Blue. That when you go around life trying to either project or maintain an image, it wears down on you in that you don't necessarily know if you are acting or portraying yourself in your real self. And that real self could also be contaminated or influenced by those around you. You change the way you talk when you speak to certain people, when you change certain languages, when you're in a group setting, when you're on your own, or when you're with a friend or with a parent, a daughter, a child. It could be that you talk the way you talk to everybody. But do you really know if what you're presenting yourself is always the true self? And that's what I think the whole purpose of Perfect Blue is. Now, to sort of really home in on the importance of Perfect Blue in today's age. Now, as a reminder, this movie came out well over 27 years ago. I think more than ever, it is more relevant now than it was back then. Because back then, 1998, we barely had the internet. Social media wasn't even a thing. You just had a lot of underground forums and chat rooms and some very basic messengers. Email was barely a thing. People were still sending sending faxes through machines. But the purpose of Perfect Blue at the time was to highlight the preservation, or at least the struggle and the pursuits of maintaining one's image, and whether or not that image itself is important to you or whether you feel it's important for others. And now in today's world where literally everything is online, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got Twitter, you've got all these AI engines that are able to create new avatars and new stories and new sort of images of yourself, that you kind of get lost in how the world sees you. And so I think that despite it being such a classic and, well, lack of a better word, old movie, I think more than ever, Perfect Blue is a great movie to be watching right now. If you haven't watched Perfect Blue, I think that it's mind-shattering. It is one of the greatest things that I've watched, but it is deeply unsettling. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for those who aren't ready to face the truth, aren't ready to face facts. As ambiguous and as sort of vague that I am with how I'm talking about Perfect Blue, you really have to go in there with zero ego and open eyes. It will break you. It will change the way that not only you see the world, but you see yourself. And what you choose to do with it is very much the reason why Perfect Blue exists as a medium. So, go ahead and watch it. Be prepared to be sickened. Be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to be scared. But also be prepared to listen to the message and see what the movie can do for you. I'm very close to giving it a 10. In fact, I might even give it a 10 because it has been one of the most impactful movies that I've watched. And not because it's just fucked up. I've watched a lot of fucked up stuff. This is beautifully fucked up. So I think that's the perfect summation of Perfect Blue.
I think when it affects you will to this amount of degree, for you to feel this way and, essentially explain everything you just did, I have nothing else to add. And furthermore, it is very much, you can see how good of a movie that is because it affects you. And not only that, it apparently affects the times back then and now. There really isn't anything else to add from my side other than I'm convinced to watch it too.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything else. That was what I was struggling with before going on to this recording, because I was thinking, is there an actual purpose in terms of me doing a non-spoiler? Because I'm not speaking to you, the listener. I'm speaking to you, Jason, where I don't want to ruin this for you.
Right.
And so I think that if you were to watch it, that would be the best thing to do for you, which is to not say anything about the show other than the effects that show may have on you.
Yeah, I think that also perfectly encapsulates how awesome the movie is. The fact that it can affect you that much.
To this day, too. 27 years later. So, and that's the thing, too. Back then, right? Like, there was literally nothing online. You could barely do a Google search, right? What was it? Ask Jeeves, Yahoo Answers, that stuff. That was it. Now, it's everything. From DeepSeek, the ChatGPT, to using Google, Bing, whatever like search engine you have, everything is powered by technology. But that also means that like the closer you are to thinking you can seek the answer, the further away you are from realizing the real purpose of why you were looking for that first thing in the first place. I didn't mean to like go super deep, but like
no.
that's what Satoshi Kon does. He's an auteur. He's a fucking master of he was. Unfortunately, due to his untimely death, it means that like the only thing that we can do is to preserve his name and to continue to appreciate the arts that he has created. And to be his debut movie, the first ever thing that he created, Perfect Blue, is just it's a masterpiece. I'm saying it now, and I haven't done this in a long time. This was a 10 out of 10.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
on to the last work
Yes.
that Satoshi Kon did.
I've watched and I'm going to review Paprika, based on the completed novel of the same name by Yashitaka Tsutsui. It was published in English by Alma Books in 2009 and by Vintage Books in 2013. Premiered in the latter half, I think November of 2006, produced by Madhouse. And as mentioned by Will, Paprika was Satoshi Kon's last feature film before his death in 2010. Has a MAL score of 8.04, ranked 633, popularity 413, and 585,000 members. Okay, so obviously Satoshi Kon is a very well-known, one of the greats in terms of anime directors. The way that I have to give Paprika... Okay, let me preface this by giving my score first. So then it sets a bit of expectations. Unfortunately, it isn't a 10, but a high 9. Unsurprisingly, it's going to be either a 9 or a 10, usually with Satoshi Kon, in my opinion. And this was a high 9. Now, the reason why I didn't give this a 10 is because, and bear with me here, both the listeners and Will, I personally think Paprika is not a good movie. It is rather a very amazing experience, because if I first tell you the storyline, let's tell you the storyline. So, dreams. Okay, awesome. Window to the soul. That's what you hear. That's how the saying goes. And a tech lab that, I guess like a startup, has developed something called the DC Mini, which is a device that allows you to go into dreams of others. If you're going to say, hey, this is copying Inception, it's the other way around. But anyways, they are like, okay, this is awesome. We can go into people's psyches, into people's dreams, and we can cure them of their psychological disorders. So think like schizophrenia, bipolarism, maybe even Alzheimer's. You could cure them. Think about the possibilities. Everything is so great. Everything is awesome. Until it goes into the hands of people that should not have access to it. Unfortunately, this device gets stolen and shenanigans ensue. And I mean shenanigans in the most fucked up way possible. There really isn't anything else I can say that really is necessary in terms of the plot of Paprika. Yes, a lot of people at least claims that, Christopher Nolan didn't really explicitly say it, I think, but it is very much inspired by Paprika. It is almost undeniable. The thing that I think about Satoshi Kon is always about imagery. I think the imagery of Paprika is absolutely fucking bonkers. There is a parade sequence that I think everyone who, after watching Paprika, will know what I'm talking about. That parade scene is just fucking crazy in of itself. And then these weird mind bending, because is this a dream? Is this reality? You have heard all of this stuff before if you have watched Inception, or if you have, watched, for example, Black Mirror and some of those episodes. So this necessarily isn't new territory for you if you haven't seen Paprika up to this point, which is in my situation. So therefore, I don't think necessarily the movie itself is something that is amazing, in that you can't look at it like I don't know how to feel about it, because I can't say it is a good movie or a great movie, but it was an awesome experience. It was one of those things where I think if you were to watch this, which is what I did, with the lights off in the middle of the night, you will probably get the most immersive hour and a half of your entire life, with eye candy, mindfuckery, crazy imagery, the themes of identity and self, technology and humanity, the things that even Will mentioned, escapism versus reality, the collective consciousness of the dream world. It is absolutely crazy eye candy that I think just on its own is worth the ticket of admission for literally anybody, not even if you're an anime fan. You just need to watch this. But I think what you come out of it would be something that is going to be very varied, especially nowadays when this kind of theme, this kind of trope technically has been done. Now, this is probably the progenitor, the original person who, Satoshi Kon, who, made up this crazy imagery and crazy mind-bending stuff. I mean, there is stuff like, I can't even explain, like, going into the body, out of the body. It was a crazy ride. And no matter what you can say about, oh, I've seen this in this movie or in that movie, I'm telling you, though, the themes, yeah, sure, you can say that. The imagery is second to none. The color palette is second to none. And it's one of those things that even if you do not sit and watch it from beginning to end, but you peek in every 5 to 10 minutes, I will guarantee you will have an interesting and or amazing experience that I don't even know what to say. I originally, I had ramen while I was eating, and I think by the end of it, I just didn't finish my bowl of ramen, and it was just sitting there while I was just staring at the screen like I was watching Serial Experiment Lane and just being hooked onto the imagery, onto the crazy, bombastic, fucked up, psychedelic kind of ride, really. So I really think that Paprika is more of an experience than I would describe as a movie. I know you might split hairs and you might feel like I'm just saying gibberish, but I really do feel that these images that I see in Paprika will stay with me pretty much for the rest of time at some point, and then I'll remember, oh, this weird mind-bending thing, the hand goes into another person's body, what the fuck is this shit? And then I'll be like, wow, that was a pretty fucking crazy ride. And that is literally Paprika in a nutshell to me. It is massively chaotic. It is massively crazy. And it is massively awesome. That's how I can really say it. The plot is obviously kind of not the strong suit, I would say, for sure, which is why I kind of went from a 10 to kind of gave it a 9. But I would say even if I had the sound cut off, all of the subtitles gone, and I was just looking at an image of a movie, I was just looking at the movie muted, it would still be an awesome experience. Obviously, with the music, with the voice, with the subtitles and everything, it makes it even better. But that's how awesome Paprika is without one of your senses being sound, and it can still have the same amount of impact. Really goes to show how crazy Satoshi Kon is and how amazing Paprika is.
Well, speaking of that, how was the sound?
Really good.
Yeah,
I was listening on the XM5. It was great.
The sound was fantastic for Perfect Blue, and really drives home the suspense of Perfect Blue. I think what we will absolutely agree on is we fucked up. We waited too long to watch this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also I think, especially for me watching Perfect Blue, it's not oh man, I should have watched this when it came out, or I should have watched this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think it's just, it doesn't really matter when you watch it. The movie itself is a perfect foil for what's happening in the world right now and what your current physiological, psychological, mental state is. With Paprika, I think it's an auditory and visual experience, regardless of what time period you watch it in.
Yeah. Some of the images. So, again, everyone, including me, will have parallels to Inception. And I believe that comparison is very apt. However, what I would say is when Inception is very rule-based, mechanic, right? Very structured. Paprika is like, fuck that noise, chaos theory. Let's just roll the dice and see how it goes. And it is, I don't, I
Well,
can't.
I mean, it certainly helps that it came out way before Inception, right?
Yeah, and I mean to the point where I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, I'm pretty confident that Inception was inspired by Paprika. Like, it's just there's just the parallels are just all there that I cannot ignore it. You know.
I mean, you could say the same thing with like Black Swan and Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
Aronofsky, the director, the filmmaker for Black Swan, like has come out and said that there are similarities in his movie, but he's gone on to say and deny that Perfect Blue was the inspiration for Black Swan. What he did say, though, was that his previous film, Requiem for a Dream, does have a remake of one of the scenes from Perfect Blue. And at the same time as well, Soshi Khan did say that Requiem for a Dream is one of his favorite movies. It was one of the movies that he basically watched in 2010, and he's also gone on to say that she had a meeting with Aronofsky back in 2001. So there definitely is like some back and forth, some parallels, some discussions and talks, and maybe even some inspirations. But as you know, with like filmmakers and directors, right? Like their art is their art, and it would be crazy for them to say, yeah, no, I totally got inspired by this movie. That's why I made this. No, I think for them that there's still a certain level of artistic integrity and pride in their works that they will stand by what they created. So I wouldn't imagine that like Christopher Nolan would just be like, yeah, no, Paprika was the reason why I did Inception. I think at the same time, though, deep down, there would be some acknowledgement of the effects of Paprika that it might have had on his creation of the movie Inception.
For sure. And now, the thing that I think is going to be a bit of contention is this movie is not for everyone, despite me saying everyone should watch it. Because I feel that some of the visuals and some of the mind-bending fuckery, I mean, similar with, Will, how you say, like, Perfect Blue will break you. I think you could watch Paprika and get sick to your stomach because of like the psychedelic aspect of it, and then like you just vomit, or you get like your mouth gets really dry. Like it is literally like sensory overload. It is literally eye candy to the point where it could be even nauseating in a good way. But if you are like, honestly, if it's psychedelic and you're on acid, don't watch Satoshi Kon's Paprika. You will lose your mind. But if you
I don't know, that sounds like a challenge, man.
Yeah, okay, sure. But if you want to know what's it like to be on acid, but you don't want to do acid, Paprika is probably the closest you'll ever get. And it is just an hour and a half. But my God, that hour and a half is fucking insane. I don't even know how to, like, buildings just get destroyed and then grinning dolls the size of buildings and then a parade and then a girl in the shadow. I don't even fucking know. I sound like a madman when I'm talking about all of these images and all of what's happening and unfolding, but it really is. And the ending is really cute in the sense that, like, it is a wink and a nod. And it is one of those things that is like fourth wall breaking in a way. And it was almost like the perfect ending to what is an entirely crazy ride. Will, it is fucking insane, bro. I mean, you've seen maybe some images of Paprika, right?
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely seen a few. I've seen a few, but it's like I refrain from spoiling myself. I do want to experience it for myself as well.
Yeah,
it's essentially what it is. It's just visual and mind fuckery, right?
Yeah, I mean,
with Perfect Blue, it's not necessarily mind fuckery. It's more
like character
you know how,
study.
like, no, No, absolutely. Well, I mean, yes, but at the same time, like that would be putting it too simply. You remember when I talked about Welcome to the NHK and everybody has like some level of dissociative disorder, schizophrenia, depression, whatnot. Imagine you have all those, but you also have a knife in your hand.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what Perfect Blue is.
Well, Paprika is like, what if you bite into a gusher and
you realize there was like an ounce of mushrooms in there.
Not an ounce. It is like a concentrated, potent ride. And then after that, you go on a roller coaster. Then after that, go into a haunted house. Then after that, have a conversation with yourself and 600 individuals that are also you. And then an hour and a half later, be like, yo, that was really crazy and awesome, but fucked up, man. I don't really want to do that ever again, but shall we do it again?
That's the complete opposite with Perfect Blue, because it meant instead of being on a roller coaster ride, you've been in the same room the whole time.
Yeah.
That's what Perfect Blue is. Like, okay, this is an important question I do want to ask you. Do you feel that you'd be able to watch Paprika again? Like, not immediately, but like in the future, would you be able to be like, you know what, like, it's time to rewatch it, or like, hey, it's on TV, might as well watch it. Like, do you ever feel that you could watch it again and have the same level of appreciation for Paprika?
I could watch it. Okay. There's
two
answers.
Not the same level of appreciation, because that's obviously like not true. Like, you can't look into something having already experienced it and experience it all over again. More like, do you think you would still be able to appreciate it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't mind rewatching it in the future just to remind myself about this gem of a movie, this awesome tour de force of this movie. But it really, unfortunately, will never be the same thing as me watching it for the first time. And knowing its pedigree, and still, that's when it's crazy. Actually, maybe I'll just give it a 10 too. Fuck it. Because at the end of the day, with all of this pedigree, knowing I watched Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfather.
You did watch those? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't watched those. I should get around to watching those.
So I know Satoshi Kon. I also watched Paranoia Agent. Will and I share the same opinion about it. It's fucking awesome. Don't ever scribble, math equations in the parking lot, because you will look like a psycho. But one thing I will say is that the biggest tragedy is I can never watch Paprika again for the first time, because, oh shit, it was fucking crazy. So to answer your question, Will, again, yes, I don't mind rewatching it, but it won't be the same, obviously. And I think that is like the biggest tragedy, because it is so weird of an experience watching it. And I think technically if I watched it on my own versus watching it with a group of people, also very different.
I would never watch Perfect Blue with another person, unfortunately. Perfect Blue is very much a personal experience. The way that you watch the movie is going to be very different from the way I watch the movie. We're going to be taking very different things from it, but at the same time, I think you and I will both agree that Perfect Blue and Paprika, along with all of Satoshi Kon's works, are fucking phenomenal.
And this is not a spoiler, but the ending of Paprika, and especially it being Satoshi Kon's last film, is so poetic, I can't even put it into words. Like, the ending of Paprika and how it's sort of like, as we said earlier with Ozzy, right? Like, right before his unfortunate death, he did a concert, right? So it almost in the same way, the ending of Paprika is like, even though I would still love to see Satoshi Kon's work in the future, unfortunately that future will never happen. The other second best solution is the ending of Paprika. I just cannot. I was just laughing out loud when I looked at when I saw the ending, and I was just like, "You did it again, didn't you, Kon? Satoshi Kon, you fucking did it again." And I was a little bummed out that I won't see any of his other future works because that reality won't happen. But Paprika will stay as probably one of the greatest films ever.
There is one potential future thing you could watch, but there's too many factors to consider it to become a reality, which is the last work that he was doing before his unfortunate passing being Dreaming Machine.
Yeah, with Mappa director guy.
Madhouse. Basically, Masao Murayama was involved with basically all of his films and said that, like, at the time, this is back in 2012, when Madhouse was going through some serious shit, they essentially had no money. They had no money to be able to work on this movie, and therefore that's why it was halted. Even like by 2013, only 600 of the 1,500 shots required had been animated. So basically, only like 1/3 of the movie was done. So to this day, right now though, Maruyama has said that he's not given up on the production. He's just waiting because now that Madhouse is back, Mappa, because now he's gone over to Mappa. If there is a talented director who has the same vision and ability as Satoshi Kon, then it's not entirely without possibility that we could continue working on Dreaming Machine. And that's the key thing. Who the fuck is there that can be like Satoshi Kon other than Satoshi Kon?
I don't think there is any.
Yeah.
And one
so
thing
even if it does come out, it's just not going to be the same thing. But hey, if Dreaming Machine did come out, I'd watch it because
hell yeah, I'll watch it too.
Kon set the stones. He put the plan in motion.
One thing I also want to emphasize about Paprika is the lack of CGI. It is when you see something drawn from beginning to end, and it being so mind-bendingly fucking awesome. It really is a treat. But I would say this will drive you a little bit crazy. And if you watch Perfect Blue and Paprika, might I suggest watching Perfect Blue first?
Yep.
Probably. Then watch Paprika. And then do an IQ test or test your sanity afterwards, and you might lose a couple of points here or there. But it will be worth it. That's what I think.
There you go. That wraps up our Anime Closet Club number 9. Going out with a bang. I'm really glad I finally got to watch Perfect Blue, and I am really looking forward to picking up Paprika. I hope you do the same with Perfect Blue yourself. Just make sure that you're comfy.
Oh shit! Oh god! It's like Clannad After Story or like Anohana in the sense that like it's gonna break you, right? Like
no, those are different because they break you emotionally. Like you choose to be hurt. You choose to experience the depths of human sorrow. There's nothing sad about Perfect Blue. It's just that you will be vulnerable. You have no choice but to be vulnerable. You choose to be hurt when you watch Anohana and when you watch Clannad After Story, but you don't have a say in how you feel whilst watching Perfect Blue. And I don't think you would have the same thing either when watching Paprika. You are in Satoshi Kon's world, and he's going to make you feel the way he wants you to feel.
Actually, that fucking on point, Will. Exactly. Like, I was just staring at the screen and just letting it take me for a ride. Literally, you just need to give in, and it is a really crazy trip. And
to be fair, like we should have expected this anyway when we watched Paranoia Agent, because it's very much the blending of reality and fiction. It's not being able to tell what is real in front of you and what is just made up. What's the figment of your imagination? What is just augmented reality? Like Paranoia Agent was the perfect encapsulation of what it means to be paranoid.
Mm-hmm. And like, what was that little pink
Marumo? I think his name is.
And then the city engulfed in something.
Maromi. Yeah, the little pink dog thing.
Yep. That. Well, never mind. And bats, right? Yes. Not bats, plural, as in a baseball bat. Let's just say.
Yep. And
crooked one. Yep. All right.
Oh man, I could watch Paranoia Agent again. I should get around to watching Tokyo Godfather and Millennium Actress.
Very different. Again,
yeah, I know they're very different, but it's still Satoshi Kon. They're going to be great movies.
I cried. Well, on that note, thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. If you want to, we greatly appreciate you leaving a ratings or review on your podcast listening platform of choice. If not, it's all good. We appreciate you for listening nonetheless. If you want to contact us, you can reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE @gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word. And we also have a website. We encourage you to check it out, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Waste My Love by Henyao. Our break music is Purple Clouds by Sara the Illstrumentalist. And our outro music is Those Monsters, Do You Feel It? Instrumental version by Oi and NBHD Nick. You can always support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or your music listening platform of choice. And Epidemic Sound provides all of our royalty-free music. If you're interested, you can sign up using the referral link in our show description. Terms and conditions apply. Will, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask. So, as you know, with Paranoia Agent, there is that either we can think of the kid with the bat and the rollerblade, or the doll, right? In Paprika, obviously, there is the red-headed girl, Paprika, that I think is very iconic. Is there sort of an iconic imagery, like an image of Perfect Blue?
Red.
Oh shit!
The color red.
Oh god, that's just
it's perfect. I hate keeping saying the word perfect just because it's literally called Perfect Blue. But the thing is, there's almost no blue in the movie.
That reminds me.
There's only like one time where there is blue, and whether or not it is a significant scene is very much up to how you choose to interpret it.
Yeah. Well, that
I do have a proposal, Jason.
Yeah, let's hear it.
And that is, and this very much depends on whether or not we both watch our respective movies in the next few weeks or months. But we should do a BP, which is a pure spoiler BP, and we just talk about Paprika and Perfect Blue.
I'm down. Fuck it. Let's go. I mean, not right this moment, but fuck it. Let's do it.
Yes, because I really need to talk to you about Perfect Blue, and I'm sure that I want to discuss some things with you about Paprika as well. I might even watch Tokyo Godfathers. Fuck, should we do a Satoshi Kon?
Should we just do an AD and then do a Satoshi Kon? Because originally that was supposed to be our last director kind of thing that before we kind of put on ice.
We can totally do that. Let's get these two movies out of the way first, and then afterwards I'll find time to watch Godfathers and Actress.
Yeah.
Well, right on cue. The thunderstorm is kicking in now, so this is actually a good time. Yeah, this is a good time to wrap things up. So, thank you very much for listening to the mindless list and delusions of Jason and Will after experiencing Satoshi Kon syndrome. So we'll catch you all in the next episode. Until then, please. Don't eat anything when you're watching Perfect Blue.
And don't look away from Paprika.
All right, take care, guys.